Evian. Evian mineral waters come from the French Alps, specifically from a spring near the town of Evian-les-Bains on the southern shore of Lake Geneva. This natural spring was supposedly discovered by a French nobleman in 1789 who started drinking it regularly and believed it was improving his kidney health. The word spread, and by the early 1800s, people were making trips to the area specifically to drink the water, and by 1826, it was being bottled and sold. The water starts as rain and snow falling on the Alps. That water then slowly filters down through layers of glacial sand and rock over a period of about 15 years. By the time it reaches the spring, it has collected a specific mineral composition: calcium, magnesium, bicarbonate, and a handful of others. That process happens naturally, and the water is never treated or modified. It goes from the ground into the bottle. The mineral content gives Evian a soft, slightly round taste that's easy to drink. It's not very hard water, and it doesn't taste rocky or aggressive, which is part of why it became so popular globally. Evian is owned today by Danone, the French food and beverage giant, and is considered a premium water brand. Aquafina. Aquafina is a purified tap water brand produced by PepsiCo, which was launched in 1994 after several failed water attempts by the company. Technically, it's called PWS on the label, which stands for Public Water Source. That means it starts as municipal tap water, the same water coming out of your faucet at home. But Aquafina puts that water through a 7-step purification process called Hydro 7, which includes reverse osmosis, ozone treatment, ultraviolet light exposure, and carbon filtration. By the end of it, the water is extremely pure. Most minerals, impurities, and pretty much everything else has been stripped out. The result is a very neutral, clean-tasting water with a slightly flat quality to it. In 2007, after some public pressure, PepsiCo officially confirmed on the label that Aquafina comes from public water sources, which reignited a conversation about what bottled water actually is and what people think they're paying for. Dasani. Dasani is Coca-Cola's answer to Aquafina, launched in 1999. It is also purified municipal water. However, Dasani adds a specific blend of minerals back into the water after the reverse osmosis process to enhance the flavor. Dasani is huge in the US. It's one of the top-selling bottled water brands in the country. In 2004, Dasani launched in the United Kingdom. It was a major rollout with serious marketing behind it. And then, almost immediately, two things happened. First, a British newspaper ran the headline, "Coca-Cola's tap water Dasani is Sidcup's finest," basically saying to the British public that they were being asked to pay premium prices for tap water from South London. A few weeks later, a batch of Dasani was found to contain bromate, a potentially harmful chemical at levels above legal limits. Coca-Cola had to recall 500,000 bottles. The brand never relaunched in the UK. It remains one of the most referenced product launch disasters in marketing history. The problem came from how they cleaned the water. They used ozone to purify it, but the water they were working with in the UK happened to have a lot of bromide in it. When ozone mixes with bromide, it creates bromate, a harmful byproduct. It wasn't intentional, but it was bad enough to kill the whole launch. Fiji water. Fiji water is sourced from an artesian aquifer on the Fijian island of Viti Levu, deep underground the Yakara Valley. It is marketed as being untouched by man, until the cap is twisted. The brand emphasizes its exotic origin and the natural filtration process through layers of volcanic rock. As rainwater filters through the volcanic earth, it picks up dissolved silica, which gives the water a distinctly smooth and slightly sweet mouthfeel. This chemical property has made it a favorite among high-end chefs. The water is bottled directly at the source, and it never comes in contact with air or outside contaminants until you open the bottle. Ironically, the island of Fiji has significant issues with access to clean drinking water. For years, a substantial portion of the rural Fijian population didn't have reliable access to safe tap water, while the Fiji water facility was exporting millions of bottles to other countries with safe tap water, which attracted ongoing scrutiny. Fiji Water also had a very public dispute with the Fijian government in 2010. The government proposed a water extraction tax, and Fiji Water initially threatened to close its plant, but they eventually settled on a restructured tax arrangement. Nestle Pure Life. Nestle Pure Life is the largest selling bottled water brand in the world by volume. It sells in over 40 countries and outsells basically everything else on this list combined in many markets. The water starts from either tap or groundwater sources, gets put through purification, and then is remineralized with a specific blend of minerals before bottling. The formula varies slightly depending on which country it's being sold in, because the source water varies, but the concept is consistent. Nestle built Pure Life by going after markets that many premium brands weren't focused on, the developing world and emerging markets where clean, safe drinking water is a daily concern. In those contexts, Pure Life positioned itself as affordable, reliable, and safe. In wealthier markets, it's positioned itself as a budget-friendly option. The company has faced significant criticism over its water extraction practices, particularly in the United States. In states like Michigan and California, Nestle extracted water from local springs at extremely low cost. often just a few $100s a year in permit fees, and sold it for millions, and in some cases, Nestle took more water than permitted, which led to years-long legal battles. Voss. Voss is Norwegian water, known for its cylindrical bottle designed by a former Calvin Klein creative director. The water itself comes from an artesian source in Iveland, a small municipality in southern Norway. Like Fiji, it's drawn from an underground aquifer that's protected from surface contamination by layers of rock, and it's been collected there since the last ice age, when glaciers blanketed the region. Because the source area is extremely remote and largely uninhabited, the water has very low mineral content and one of the lowest TDS readings of any major water brand. Low TDS means very clean and neutral tasting water. Voss was founded in 1999 by a Norwegian and American entrepreneur who specifically designed the glass bottle first and then found the water source to go with it. Interestingly, Voss is a Norwegian brand, but it was primarily marketed toward American consumers for most of its early years. Today, Voss sells both still and sparkling varieties and has a plastic bottle line for more everyday use. Smart Water. Smart Water, another Coca-Cola brand, uses a process called vapor distillation. Basically, it copies what happens in nature. Water evaporates, forms clouds, and falls as rain. The idea is that by the time it reaches you, it's as clean and pure as a fresh raindrop. At the Smart Water facility, water gets heated up until it turns into steam, and when it does, all the impurities and minerals get left behind. The steam is then cooled back down into pure water. Smart Water then adds a few electrolytes back into it to give it some flavor. It's designed to be a more premium, better-tasting everyday water. The brand has pushed into sparkling, alkaline, and protein-infused versions over time. Perrier. Perrier is the world's most recognizable sparkling mineral water. It's naturally sparkling mineral water, meaning the carbonation comes from nature, not from a machine. The spring is in Vergès, a small town in the south of France in the Gard region. Underneath the area there are two underground pockets, one holding mineral water, one holding carbon dioxide gas. They naturally coexist, and historically they mix near the surface to produce naturally carbonated spring water. Perrier collects the water and the gas separately, purifies the gas, and recombines them in the bottle. That means technically it's still natural CO2 from the source, just collected and reintroduced, which allows it to maintain its natural sparkling mineral water classification. The minerals in Perrier, including calcium, bicarbonate, and magnesium, give it a slightly briny mineral taste, and the carbonation is quite aggressive, more fizzy than most sparkling waters. The spring was purchased in 1903 by a British man named Sir John Harmsworth, after he was injured in a car accident and recovered at the spa town nearby. He promoted the water as good for digestion and built the Perrier brand across Europe and eventually America. For most of the 20th century, Perrier was basically the sparkling water of choice in upscale settings globally. But then in 1990, traces of benzene, a carcinogen, were found in Perrier bottles. The contamination came from a dirty filter at a bottling plant. Perrier recalled 160 million bottles worldwide. It was one of the largest product recalls in history at the time. The company recovered, was acquired by Nestle in 1992, and is still a major brand today, though it never quite recaptured the prestige it held before 1990. Volvic. Volvic is a French mineral water that comes from the Auvergne region in central France, inside the Auvergne Volcanoes Regional Nature Park. The water filters through 6 layers of volcanic rock over a period of about 5 years, before it reaches the Volvic spring. That volcanic filtration is what defines it. The rock gives the water a very specific and light mineral content, including silica, magnesium, calcium, potassium, and a low sodium level. It's one of the more balanced mineral waters out there. Volvic is soft, clean, and neutral, with very slight minerality. A lot of people who don't especially like the taste of heavier mineral waters tend to like Volvic. Volvic is owned by Danone, same as Evian, but serves slightly different market positions. Evian is a luxury brand, and Volvic is more accessible and everyday. Poland Spring. Poland Spring is one of the oldest and most distinctly American water brands with a history dating back to 1845 and the Ricker family of Maine. Back then, a spring on their farm started getting a reputation for having healing properties, and people began traveling just to drink from it. The Rickers saw the opportunity and built a full resort around it, and eventually started bottling the water and selling it, making Poland Spring one of the very first bottled water brands in American history. Maine is rich in natural groundwater, and Poland Spring sources its water from multiple spring locations throughout the state, including Poland Spring itself and several other certified spring sources. The water is naturally filtered through Maine's glacial geology. Despite its popularity, it is arguably the most legally embattled brand on this list, facing constant challenges regarding its source and labeling. Under FDA rules, spring water must flow naturally to the surface, or come from a well that taps into a real underground spring. A major lawsuit filed in 2017 claims Poland Spring breaks those rules entirely, alleging that not one drop of its water actually comes from a natural spring. Instead, the plaintiffs say the company is just pulling regular groundwater from man-made wells that have no real connection to any spring. Poland Spring is now owned by Blue Triton Brands after the Nestle sale in 2021. Gerolsteiner. Gerolsteiner is Germany's most iconic mineral water, known for its intense mineral content and natural carbonation. It comes from the volcanic Eifel region, where it picks up a lot of calcium, magnesium, and bicarbonate by traveling through deep layers of dolomite rock. The result is a water with exceptionally high TDS, typically around 2,500 milligrams per liter. For comparison, Evian sits around 300 and Volvic around 130. The carbonation is natural, coming from CO2 that rises from the volcanic geology underground and mixes with the mineral water at the source. Gerolsteiner captures the gas separately and reintroduces it at bottling. The result is a moderate fine bubble sparkle, less aggressive than Perrier. Gerolsteiner tastes earthy, mineral-forward, and substantial. It has a presence that most sparkling waters don't. Food pairing is something Gerolsteiner specifically markets around, because the high bicarbonate content does a good job of cleansing the palate between bites, which makes it popular in fine dining in Europe. Icelandic Glacial. Icelandic Glacial markets itself as the purest tasting water on Earth. It is sourced from the Ölfus Spring in Iceland, a massive underground spring formed by a volcanic eruption over 5,000 years ago. Rainwater and glacial meltwater filter down through a lava rock over a process that takes many decades before it reaches the spring. The lava rock acts as a natural filter, and because Iceland is sparsely populated with very little industry, the surface environment the water passes through is extremely pristine. Icelandic Glacial is alkaline purely by nature of its source. The taste is clean, soft, and very light, with almost no noticeable minerality. The brand was founded in 2004 and holds a carbon-neutral certification it has maintained since 2007, making it one of the earlier water brands to seriously engage with environmental credentials as a core part of its identity. The bottling facility runs on geothermal and hydroelectric energy, both of which Iceland has in abundance due to its geology. Waiakea. Waiakea is a Hawaiian volcanic water brand founded in 2012 by Ryan Emmons, who was 22 years old at the time and had just visited his family's property near Hilo on the Big Island. He realized what was sitting beneath the land and built a water company around it. The water comes from snowmelt and rain off Mauna Kea, one of the biggest mountains on Earth when measured from its oceanic base. That water filters through thousands of feet of penetrable volcanic basalt on the slopes of Mauna Loa before it reaches the aquifer Waiakea draws from. The filtration process takes an estimated 13 years. The result is water with a well-balanced mineral profile and naturally alkaline like Icelandic Glacial, without any additives. The bottles are made with a degradable additive that allows them to break down in landfill conditions in roughly 15 years, rather than the standard 1500 years for regular plastic. The company runs on 100% renewable energy, and it donates a portion of each sale to provide clean water in rural Malawi through a partnership with Pump Aid. Essentia. Essentia is probably the most well-known alkaline water brand in the US. They start with regular tap or groundwater, run it through a heavy-duty filtration process to basically strip it down to nothing, and then add their own mix of minerals to push the pH up to 9.5. That number is basically their whole brand. For reference, 9.5 is way more alkaline than pretty much any water you'd find naturally occurring anywhere. The theory behind alkaline water is that it counteracts the acidic environment that a modern diet supposedly creates in the body, and that staying in a more alkaline state has health benefits including better hydration, improved energy, and reduced acid reflux. The scientific consensus on most of these claims is pretty skeptical. The body tightly regulates its own blood pH regardless of what you drink, and most nutritionalists point out that drinking alkaline water doesn't meaningfully shift your body's internal pH levels. However, some research does suggest alkaline water may actually help with acid reflux specifically, and athletes sometimes report feeling better hydrated with it. The taste is noticeably smooth and very clean, similar to distilled water but with a soft quality from the re-added minerals. The high pH gives it a faint, almost silky aftertaste that regular water doesn't have. Essentia was founded in 1998 in Washington State and grew primarily through the health and wellness retail channel. It was acquired by Nestle in 2017 as part of their push into the US premium water market, and then passed to Blue Triton Brands along with Poland Spring and others in the 2021 sale. Acquapana. Acquapana is an Italian still mineral water brand common in high-end restaurants around the world. The water comes from the Apennine Mountains in Tuscany, specifically from a spring estate called Villa Pana, a property with origins going back to the Medici family in the 16th century. The Medici used the land as a summer hunting estate, and centuries later, the spring water from the property became the foundation of a water brand. The water filters through layers of sandstone in the Apennine Hills over many years before it reaches the spring. Acquapana is known for its texture. It's often described as smooth, round, and almost velvety on the palate. The low gas content and the particular mineral balance create a drinking experience that feels softer than most still waters without being heavy or mineral aggressive. Wine professionals often recommend it as a food pairing water because it doesn't compete with wine or other flavors. The brand was acquired by San Pellegrino, the Italian sparkling water, in the 1990s, and San Pellegrino itself was acquired by Nestle in 1997. Acqua Panna and San Pellegrino are effectively sister brands, and they're often paired together at restaurants as the still and sparkling options.